Hey folks, MasakoX here. Quite honestly, I didn't think that this idea would have much in terms of legs when I started out with it. Turles, the baddie of the Tree of Might movie, becoming a good person? It would be difficult, I must admit, to imagine it on the grounds that, at this point in his story from the original timeline, he had become quite corrupt thanks to the tree's power over the years, granting him abilities and strength, and the fact he is a classic Saiyan archetype. This originally common roundtable question was asked of us, and we finally decided to tackle it in a more slow-paced manner to give this movie character, and some more chances to properly grow and mature in a manner which would be fitting for him. You know, not just have him suddenly pivot on us just because the plot had to say he did. I mean, granted, Raditz had that happen to him in our series of him turning good, but there it felt a little more natural for him to pivot like that, and more likely with his personality. With Turles, you've got to take the softly approach.
It's very important to start your day with something nutritious, but it doesn't have to be plain or samey. That's why this magic spoon is something quite enticing, with such compelling flavors like blueberry, cinnamon, and of course, my favorite right now, maple waffle. With these great flavors and the fact this breakfast alternative has 0 grams of sugar, is gluten and grain free, and packed with 13 to 14 grams of protein per serving and just 4 net grams of carbs, it feels like it's your best weapon in staying healthy this year. Not a literal weapon, mind. It's for the battlefield, not the battlefield. Click the link below or on screen to get some Magic Spoon cereal for yourself and $5 off your order, or use the promo code Masako at checkout. And now it ships to Canada and the UK as well. Happy breakfast!
In the last part, Captain Ginyu had taken over Goku's body, and the other two Saiyans, Turles and Vegeta, had to call time on their feud, again, and falling out, in order to take their anger out on the likes of Goku, whom at the time was stronger than either of them. But thankfully, Ginyu botched that chestnut. However, Gohan had to make a choice about which monkey to take with him, and he chose Turles, since Vegeta was the least hospitable of the two at the time. At least Turles could be talked to in a manner which somewhat resembled civility. Thanks to hoodwinking Vegeta, the heroes got to summon Porunga, but they didn't get the third wish though, because Frieza had been busy, and rendered Goku unalive in the meantime. But at least Piccolo had been summoned here and brought back to life thanks to the wishes, and gave the Emperor some trouble. But then of course we got the later stages of the Namek saga happening to contend with, and the arrival of Super Saiyan Goku in front of Turles' very eyes. Might this be enough to hammer home to him that Goku wasn't all that much of a disgrace to his father's legacy? Well, maybe not, because Saiyans are incredibly stubborn, but we can only hope. At the sight of this golden phenomena, something that hadn't been seen in modern history, Turles' mind was slowly drifting away, together with the blood slowly dripping out from his broken body. Though that wasn't the thing that concerned him the most. No, the most concerning thing of all was that mixture of awe, fear and anger he had when looking at Kakarot. Or was it even Kakarot anymore? He didn't know what to think. The fact that Bardock's child was now the legendary Super Saiyan, despite showing a personality totally not fitting of such an accolade, was effectively the straw that broke Turles' back. He thought he had managed to become the strongest Saiyan who had ever lived, but now this Kakarot here had taken the mantle from him in a manner which was so brazen, so brash, that if we were made of weaker stuff, it might have been enough to make him call it quits right there and then and retire to some backwater world, almost go back to the situation he had in the first part. But his vitriol kept him there. He couldn't give up now, or else he would never beat Kakarot, ever. But then the Super Saiyan broke him out of his moment of introspection with a voice that could cut through sheet metal. Gohan, Turles, get to your ship and get out of here. Get as far as you can. Are your people still around? He glared at Turles, and everything was brought back to their first battle, all that into sharp focus for the pirate. No, I told them to retreat, Goku grimaced and growled. Then you'll either have to find a place to hide or perish. This voice was unlike anything he heard from this person before. It was commanding, not really willing to spend time negotiating or tippy-toeing around, no compromises. And Turles felt in the very fibre of his being that he could not argue with this. What was he? He wasn't sure if any Saiyan in recent history had witnessed such a thing, even if it weren't a Super Saiyan, this level of attention, let alone experiencing it. Maybe no Saiyan had ever experienced it. But surely someone would have had to have been around to tell the tale. But Kakarot was so unsoft, so unsaiyan. He was unlike Bardock, who knew how to do the job. He was unlike any Saiyan that Turles knew. He was unlike any Saiyan Turles ever knew. Turles had gotten himself back into the loop of denial and delusion. He was looking at his bloodied hands, then on what Kakarot was doing to Frieza. The Super Saiyan had clearly gotten bored with Turles just standing around there, dwelling on his own inadequacies. And he wasn't doing just well against Frieza, he was dominating against Frieza. They had thought just a couple of minutes ago that Frieza was about to kill them all with plenty of energy to spare. But now, it looked like quite the opposite. It looked like the Emperor could finally be destroyed, Goku having energy to spare instead. The only thing that got him out of that state of shock again was the voice of Kakarot's son.
Turles, can you walk? Come on, we gotta move!
Turles looked to Gohan and felt out his own condition. He got up slowly and felt his foot. Yes, he could get away. Yes, you're right, kid. He then limped a bit further and mustered all his remaining strength to fly away and follow Gohan, albeit at a much slower pace than usual. Thanks to Goku utterly wasting Frieza, nobody else had managed to spot them leaving. What had remained of the Tree of Might after the chaos was lying around just in bits, like it were nothing compared to the sheer amount of power on display here from Frieza and Kakarot. When they got to the ship, they saw a human woman there. It was Bulma.
What's he doing here? And where's Krillin?
Gohan waved aside the protests.
He's on our side, I'll explain later. Help me with Piccolo.
Turles just nodded and helped the boy like he were a mindless, obedient automaton, still looking at the two fighters in the distance. They were barely visible now, but the effects of their struggle were totally visible. He could feel the air whip around him from the effects of their barrages, even though they were miles away. He didn't hear the details when the woman was bickering about something to do with the ship not working, but it didn't matter. For a brief second though, he could swear that he saw Vegeta flying toward Kakarot and Frieza, and the scenery changed to a more peaceful one, with a clearer sky. He was on Earth. Turles shook his head and felt that he was about to collapse due to the loss of blood. Everything got blurry from then on. But when he came to, he saw a few Namekians tending to him, as well as Vegeta. Though they weren't doing this out of kind necessarily, there was a noted level of uneasiness about their actions, as if either of them were about to strike at any moment, and they had to be on guard. However, the prince spotted that Turles had woken up, and began to lay into him. No rest for the wicked, so it would seem. Well, look who finally decided to wake up. Vegeta's expression was rather bitter. Well, at least I'm not the one with a gaping wound in my... How are you back anyway? Vegeta shrugged. Oh yeah, Dragon Balls. He did it, by the way. Vegeta looked away. Turles was confused. What do you mean? Vegeta turned to him with a look of frustration, as if he were loath to repeat himself. He destroyed Frieza. He won. At a cost. Nemec's destruction killed him. He had no chance to escape. Turles blinked twice. All that power for nothing? The power of the legendary Super Saiyan had presented itself to them, and then was promptly extinguished? Just like the original legend, actually. Well, I mean, not for nothing when you thought about it. Goku had at least managed to take Frieza down with him, something of which I am totally sure that the galaxy would have been very grateful for. But there was still so much potential in that. But it was gone. The only crumb of comfort here was that Kakarot was no longer here to flaunt his goody-goody state of mind. But it was just a small crumb of comfort. Vegeta could see the thought process on Turles' face and continued. Don't think he's gone. They'll wish him back in 130 days. Once the Namekian Dragon Balls are restored. Then I will force him to tell me how he did it. Turles sighed. It's weird. To have death reduced to that. In our day, death seemed permanent. Final. With those orbs around, it feels like more of a inconvenience. Vegeta smirked. Agreed. The Earth Dragon Balls can't wish him back again. They'll have to rely on the Namekians for the rest of his life, Vegeta answered. They both seemed rather shaken by what had transpired, obviously. And you won't try to take those Dragon Balls for yourself? Vegeta looked at Turles as if he were genuinely offended. Frieza is gone! With that, I don't think I can get anything that I want anymore. What would be the point? Those Earthlings will put pay to any advance I try to make anyway. And besides,
The only thing I want right now is to get answers as to how he did it, and to do it with my own 2 hands. I'm not going to get any answers if I start holding a blade at the neck of Kakarot's brat, or his stupid friends, now will I?
Turles pondered for a while. I don't know. I'll stay here until I wish him back. I'm curious myself. Vegeta looked at the Namekians, who were saying goodbye to Guru.
You know, I don't even want to kill you anymore. I did before Frieza interfered, but we survived him. A final treaty is my sign of mercy.
Turles scoffed and smirked. Fine. And so they waited. Turles didn't notify his crew as to his whereabouts, though, or the fact that he had survived Nemec's explosion. Much to his own surprise, actually. The old Turles would have leapt at the chance to get back on board his ship and fly off into the darkness of space, never see Kakarot again. But upon reflection, it'd be weird to talk to them right now. But he was sure they were still together, and still going about their business, following his original orders regardless of whether he was there or not. He mostly avoided causing trouble, much like Vegeta on Earth. But they didn't hang out. It was pretty clear that there was too much bad blood between them to foster socializing. But at least they'd reached an uneasy peace. When it came to wishing people back, however...
What do you mean he's alive and doesn't want to come back?
Vegeta looked angry.
Fine! I'll find him myself and figure things out on my own!
And with that promise, Vegeta promptly left Earth. Though just before he does, Turles could swear that he looked behind at him, as if he were looking for some sort of travelling companion to share the goal, almost waiting for Turles to say, I'll come with you. But Turles said nothing. When Vegeta left, Turles was approached by Gohan. The kid must have developed some sort of soft spot for him, because he looked like his dad probably, or something.
So are you gonna go back to your crew? You're all healed now. You now don't have to worry about Vegeta.
Turles looked away at Vegeta, flying into distant space. I'm not really sure if I can face them right now, kid. Honestly, I think I could use a vacation.
Something's been on your mind for quite some time, hasn't it?
Turles looked back to face the child. This one was quite perceptive for someone so young. What are you trying to imply, kid? Gohan smirked.
There it is again. You call me a kid, not a runt.
Out of respect for not leaving me behind. I get it, you know. It's a fatal weakness, and... He paused.
My dad wouldn't have left you behind, you know.
He then noticed the bald one coming closer. They hadn't spoke since he had been resurrected. He wanted to escape from the conversation he was just having with Gohan. So he walked over to Krillin and extended his mechanical hand out. Krillin looked puzzled, but he shook it anyway, sensing no malice. No hard feelings, Baldy. He gave him his little nasty smirk again. Oh, likewise, Captain T. Likewise. Don't push your luck. I still remember the sensation of losing my appendage rather clearly. Krillin gulped nervously, but felt a tinge of satisfaction all the same. He then left the two behind to figure out what to do with his life for the moment, until he could choose whether to let his crew know of his survival or not. But he could overhear bits of their conversation. He feels different. I mean, Vegeta also chilled out a little bit, but he's still a jerk. Turles, well... The baldy was bumbling about something. It was rather weird to him. It was like these people forgot that only just a few months ago, they were mortal enemies. Turles was about to drain the planet dry with the Tree of Might, end life on the planet for his own personal gain. Had that been forgotten? Strange creatures. Whilst Turles stayed on Earth, he lived close to the Namekians, but not with them. He kept his distance. He got himself a little shack, some blankets, and enough food to survive on his own without bothering anybody else. Of course, they looked at him with a certain amount of suspicion, but he understood that that was par for the course. It came with the territory, so he ignored it. Also, Earth's number one Namekian seemed to be getting pretty close to him in power as well, and Turles was not in the mood to... Not in the mood to... what exactly? It wasn't like those people to forget about animosity. He didn't feel the need to destroy them, though. He didn't feel disdain toward what they were doing. He was... indifferent.
You seem confused.
It was a Namekian. His name was... Piccolo? Yes, Piccolo. He was standing right outside his shack, whilst Turles was trying to take a nap. Oh? And do I seem like I need a green man right now to give me a pep talk? I'm busy. Turles tried to signal to Piccolo that he wasn't interested in talking right now.
Not long ago, before you came to Earth, I wanted to live up to my father's expectations and conquer the sorry world. Back then, I was also confused.
Turles shook his head and glared at him. And what stopped you?
Saiyans, among other things. Also the runt.
He looked at Gohan in the distance.
Don't tell him this, but that kid is probably the closest thing I have to a friend.
I will say that he's rather tough for someone of his short life. Not as tough as a pure Saiyan his age might, but close enough.
So what are you gonna do? Be our friendly neighborhood monkey for all eternity?
Turles wanted to make a snarky remark back, but his mouth answered for him instead. I don't know. Figuring out stuff.
I know the feeling. I'm still technically the Demon King's heir. I won't let them sleep on that. But from one survivor to another, if you're having doubts about some weird stuff you were led to believe your entire life, there's probably something to it.
Touching. Now excuse me. I need to rest. Piccolo walked away. You know, Demon King's heir sounds rather better than a slug man. Piccolo didn't look back.
It may be the case, but which one of those is more accurate?
Soon after that, though, once the Dragon Balls had been restored, the Namekians left, leaving Turles alone. Well, I mean, except for Piccolo, of course. Another perk for him was that since he hadn't caused trouble, he was allowed to relocate to a nearby forest from West City, where he could rest. Until he would be ready to return to his crew, though. But wait, why would he even do that right now? Contact them, when he had a peaceful life here with nobody to bother him? Wait, no, he was showing weakness here. No. Would he really want to show himself to them in this state? No. By telling them he'd been pampered by Earthlings? To see how they are? To show some ridiculous concern for them? No, that's all the talk of these people getting into his head or something, with a sickening, lovey-dovey mentality. But at the same time, Vegeta was a fool. Looking for Kakarot out in space? That'd be fruitless. Turles was sure that Kakarot would come back to Earth anyway. He loves it too much. He may as well just wait for him to do so, just like his family and friends were. Then he will know how he did it, and maybe be able to figure out what comes next. For the first time, since those other Saiyan juveniles left him to die, he felt lost. But this time it was even more uncanny, as this time his existence was safe. Too safe for his liking. Hopefully something would bring his fighting spirit back, but he can't return to his Crusher Corp like this. Something had broken him, and Kakarot was the key to figuring out what that something was. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. If you like the sound of this story, do check out this story about what might have happened if Vegeta had remained evil and followed a similar path to Turles.